Okay, so why do I live in a tent on my car? Um, I guess the short answer is that things are expensive and it's fun. Um, the long answer is I've lived semi nomadically for the last 5-ish years, here on and off a little bit. So initially I lived in a fifth wheel for multiple years, work camping, kind of traveling around the western states. After that, that was with an ex-partner of mine. After that, I bought a motorhome, a little 19-foot motorhome, and Sheila and I lived in that for maybe 6 months. At that point, between the two of us, we just kind of needed a break. So this was in 2020, peak pandemic, I guess you could say, and RVing was kind of difficult at that time. A lot of things were closed, so it was hard to find places that you could dump or fill up. I pretty much stick to boondocking and things like that, so I wasn't really looking for campgrounds, but I did need to be able to deal with those type of utilities, I guess. So that did make it difficult. On top of that, it had been a difficult year in many ways, and we were both just exhausted. When you're traveling full-time, there's a lot of daily logistics that you have to deal with. Again, where can I dump? Where can I fill up water? Can my motorhome fit in this gas station? Is there a gas station in the next 100 miles? The internet says I can sleep here, but am I going to wake up to a cop banging on my door at 2 a.m.? There's just always a lot of things to think about. So it is kind of, in my opinion, untrue to say that it's just this really nice, relaxing, like permanent vacation lifestyle. There is a lot of like daily low-level stress, I feel like. And I'm sure some people deal with it better than others, but it was just a time where I felt like Sheila and I both needed some stability. We hadn't really been stable for 4 years at that point. I mean, since I got her, I was living in the fifth wheel, and she had only really known that kind of life. She is a nervous and reactive dog anyway, so when my stress level is high, hers gets high, and we just kind of like feed off each other, and it's not great. So feeling like I needed a little bit of stability for a while, just have a home base, I sold the motorhome, bought some random car, drove from Utah back to Arizona, and got an apartment in Scottsdale. I had lived in Scottsdale for many years previously, and it's an area that I knew I was familiar with, that I liked, close-ish to family, and it would give Sheila and I just a home base, so we didn't have to deal with any of that kind of travel logistics anymore, and just settle for a little bit and kind of recuperate. It was good. I don't love living in an apartment, but it was nice to have just kind of a safe space for Sheila, that I knew I could leave her and she would be okay and comfortable, and she knew that it was like home and she could relax. She did not like the motorhome. She didn't have an issue like living in it, but when we traveled, everything rattles and kind of makes noise, and that really stressed her out. So I was really glad that I was able to give her just kind of a peaceful existence for a little while. And again, just kind of living with that low-level stress, you don't realize it. I didn't realize it, that I just was constantly operating at this level until I had a chance to just kind of decompress and relax. And the first few months in my apartment were really hard. I was just like, I felt like a roller coaster of emotions. I missed traveling, but I didn't want to do it again. I said I would never live like this again. I was done with it. We had a pretty traumatic experience at a dog park when we first moved back, that just kind of like set me off. And so the first few months were rough. And then after that, we settled into a routine. We were doing well. It felt good to have that home base, you know, just have your own. I'm very much a cozy homebody. I like to hang out with my small group of friends, and I like to be cozy, I like to be comfortable, and so just having my own personal space where I could just feel comfy all the time was really nice. But after a few months more, I guess maybe 6 months in, I had kind of decompressed from years of travel stress and got into a routine in my apartment, and at that point I was kind of thinking, okay, I'm ready to go. I've always known that I don't want to live in a city long term. I'm not looking to buy a house in Phoenix and stay here forever kind of thing. I'm not a city person. I do want to buy a house and have my own place, but definitely not in a city. So at that point I was pretty much over the city life. I still had another 6 months or so on my lease. So I just decided, okay, well, what are my options? I could get a van, and I can't afford, you know, the really nice fancy ones. I could buy some like janky van and try to like build it out myself. You know, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, and it wasn't honestly an option. I didn't feel like putting myself into just ass loads of debt to have a fancy van. I didn't want to do a vehicle with a trailer. Towing is a pain in the ass. You know, the bigger your rig is, the less places you can go, and I personally like to go places away from people as much as possible. I like my space, I like my peace and quiet, I like to be alone, so I didn't want something big and cumbersome that I wouldn't be able to go a lot of places. And even with my motorhome, like I said, it was 19 feet, it was pretty small, as far as like motorhomes go. It was great, it was a perfect size for us, but again, it limits where I could go camping. I did take it a couple places that were a little sketchy, that I probably shouldn't have taken it, but I knew that I wanted more freedom. If I was going to live like this, I wanted to have as much freedom as I could. My sister and her husband had talked about rooftop tents. They had one for a while. They had lived in their Land Cruiser for a few months a couple summers ago, so I was thinking about that and was like, you know what, I could just get a rooftop tent and live in that. I had to get a new car anyway. The car that I bought in Utah to get down here, it was a great car. I loved it. Honestly, if it didn't have so many like expensive things to fix, I may have kept it. It wasn't all-wheel drive or anything, so it wasn't great, but it was a cool little car. But it did have a cracked head gasket, and it had like 200 something thousand miles on it. I don't know. It was on its last legs, so I needed to get a different car anyway. So I decided to just go for it and get the car that I wanted. I'm a big fan of Subarus. I had a Forester years ago before I was in the fifth wheel, and I wanted another one, so that's what I did. I got myself a 2017 Subaru Forester, and then started planning out the way I'd live. I knew I could live in the car itself until I got a tent situation figured out, and that's just what I did. How and when I actually moved into my car is kind of a whole other story in itself. It did not happen as planned, but it honestly did end up being better than it would have been if my original plan had happened. So yeah, I just decided that I could save a lot of money not paying rent. I'm in Arizona, so the wintertime is pretty warm down in the valley where I'm at. You know, it's not snowing and things like that. It does get cold in the desert, but it is doable, obviously, in a car. So I just figured I will do this until I don't want to. I can save money this way. I can go wherever I want. I have that freedom again. You know, not paying rent to somebody feels really nice. Of course, there are things that I miss. I really miss having a bathtub. I love to take baths. I really miss having like a bathroom, really. You know, but this is, it's just, it's nice, you know? I don't know. It's not for everybody for sure, but for me, it's the right choice for now. I definitely don't want to do it forever, and I told myself that I might be building it up in my head, and I spend a month living in my car and absolutely hate it, and then fine, I'll find another apartment or whatever. But so far, let's see here, what's today? March? About 4 months. I've been in it about 4 months. It's going great. The weather's finally starting to warm up. Spring is here in the desert, so it's warming up. Soon it'll be warming up everywhere else, and I can kind of head out and go back north and explore. Explore a little bit more. So yeah, I wanted the freedom back, and I wanted to save some money, and now I live in my car. So that's why I live in my car.